1:30 because I have a meeting that popped.
Oh,
You
thank
can go
God.
anytime you like, Alice. We won't
That's
miss you.
good. That's the good news.
We are now live, Senators.
Thank you very much, Alex. Good afternoon, everybody out there in YouTube land. This is the State Senate Committee on Institutions, and we are joined by the House Committee on Corrections and Institutions for an afternoon of fun, this being Friday. And we are talking at the first instance on the Vermont Housing and Conservation Coalition Day with several witnesses who are going to be presenting various aspects of their involvement with state government. Just for the purpose of our conversation today, I want to speak first to those who are watching us on YouTube. We recognize that a lot of the language that goes on in these committee rooms may be unfamiliar to folks. And for the benefit of the witnesses, as you are presenting testimony, if I should happen to stop you for whatever reason, it's not to be rude, but it's to try to make sure that our folks out there in YouTube land are brought up to speed on what it is exactly that we're talking about so that we're all on the same page. I was astounded to learn that we actually do have an audience out there in YouTube land. So we try to behave ourselves to some extent, but this is Friday, and my committee especially likes to be humorous on Friday. And so for those of you on YouTube, if you hear us picking on each other, it's probably just because we like to do that, and it relieves all the normal tension in the legislative process. Today is the 11th day of February, 2022, and I will first start off by introducing the members of the Senate and then ask my counterpart in the House to introduce her folks as well. I am State Senator Joe Benning, the host for your afternoon delight. I come from the Caledonia District, and Senator Ingalls is joining us from Essex Orleans, Senator McCormick from Windsor County, Senator Corey Parent from Franklin County, and Senator Dick Mazza from Colchester, Grand Isle. Alex, I am not sure, but I still have a notice on my screen. I don't know if anybody else can see it, but I can't get rid of it for some reason. It says this meeting is being live streamed. Is anybody else seeing that notice?
I got it and I clicked on it and it went away.
Okay, well, I keep hitting it. The only other option I have other than saying got it is to leave the meeting, and I don't want to do that.
No.
Wonders of modern technology. With that, I will turn it over to my wonderful counterpart in the House, Representative Alice Emmons. Alice, welcome to you and your committee. Would you like to introduce folks?
Sure. Thank you so much, Senator. We have 11 members on the House side. I am Representative Alice Emmons from Springfield. I have Representative Dolan to my left. I don't know how it's portrayed up there. Essex Junction, Representative Labor from Morgan, Representative Martell from, I knew the Waterford, Representative Campbell from St. Johnsbury, Representative Taylor from Colchester, Representative Morgan from Milton, Representative Boslin from Westminster. Representative Coffey will be joining us shortly. She is from Guilford. Representative Sullivan is on the screen. She is from Dorset, and Representative Morrissey is also on the screen with a call-in from Bennington. And thank you all for coming before us today to testify before both committees. I do have to step out around 11:30 for a quick meeting, and we'll come back. 1:30. I mean 1:30, not 11:30. It's Friday.
Thank you very much, Alice. And Representative Taylor, I'll give you condolences for having to share the legislative responsibilities with that guy from Colchester who's on our committee. And we'll move on from there. I have a list.
I feel bad. We have to have the chair that we have.
That's all right. Put in a recommendation for change. You're on the Committee on Committees. This is your fault. I have a list of witnesses this afternoon. Chris Conley, I have you as Director of Community Relations for the Champlain Housing Trust. I'd like to welcome you to this joint session of the two committees. I would ask for you and everybody else who's going to be a witness today that since we do not know what the audience is like out there in YouTube land, that you begin with a brief introduction of who you are and how you fit into this process. It would be most helpful for people to know that basic biographical information.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Senator. For the record, my name is Chris Donnelly. I'm with the Champlain Housing Trust, and I'm one of the co-chairs of the coalition that's organized testimony for you today. The coalition is a group of about 50 organizations from around the state that work on both housing and conservation and some historic preservation work. And we're the ones that partner with the Vermont Housing Conservation Board to deploy the money that you allocate in both the capital bill, but also in the budget for initiatives that improve the vitality of your communities. So very pleased to be here. I'm going to be very brief and just set the stage and then let you hear about the specific projects that are happening with your support in communities around the state. So thank you for providing time, and this is it's on your schedule as Housing Conservation Day. It's been a week. We've started with your colleagues in House General on Tuesday afternoon, and we saved the best for last to come in to speak to your two committees. We have a variety of witnesses that will talk about the value that the state gets in return for the investments in the Housing and Conservation Board. But first, I want to express my deep appreciation to these committees for the inclusion of Vermont Housing Conservation Board in the capital bill for several years now. Although the property transfer tax revenues, which is typically the funding source for VHCB, is significantly up, we do appreciate the fact that we're in the capital bill this year again. And we do hope that the state can return to funding VHCB through the property transfer tax as it was intended in future years, so we don't have to take up the valuable space in the state's borrowing capacity. I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank you in the legislature for your historic one-time investments in affordable housing these past few years in response to the crisis that Vermonters are facing. You've challenged my organization and my colleagues around the state to do more, and I believe our coalition members have risen to that challenge. So this visit is mostly a thank you and reporting back to you on the benefits that the state gets when you invest money in VHCB. Just briefly, the base budget recommendation in this year's budget is about $11 million, a little bit more than $11 million in property transfer tax revenues. And then you have roughly $4 million combined in your housing and conservation allocations in your two-year budget for this year. For your perspective, these two numbers combined, about 15 million, is about 20 million less than if we had funded VHCB through the state statute, the formula that is outlined in the state statute for VHCB. So while we really appreciate the one-time significant investments and critical ones that you've made with federal and state dollars, we are encouraging the legislature to look to the future to put this work on a more sustainable path. So with that, I just want to thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions, but really the purpose of this meeting is for you to hear from the other witnesses about specific projects that are happening in your communities.
Appreciate that, Chris. Committees, I don't know that I can see the House members very well, but does anybody have any questions for Chris? I see no hands. Chris, thank you very much for coming to join us today. You gave us the lead in. I have a list of witnesses who follow you, but I'm not sure whether you personally had any desire to have us speak to one person first.
I believe you can just follow the list that you have on your schedule.
Okay, great. The next person I have up is Miranda Lascaz, the Director of Real Estate Development for the Champlain Housing Trust. Miranda, did I really kill your name, or is that how you actually pronounce it?
I'm incredibly impressed because that is exactly how it's pronounced, and I thank you very much. That's unusual.
Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome to Institutions Committees.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As Senator Benning said, my name is Miranda Lascaz, and I'm the Director of Real Estate Development at the Champlain Housing Trust. Thank you for the opportunity to share a part of our work with you today. As many of you know, CHT is a community land trust working in Northern Vermont. We work to strengthen communities through the development and stewardship of permanently affordable homes, and community assets. We own and manage over 2,500 apartments, 650 permanently affordable owner-occupied homes, and a number of community facilities. And one of the projects we currently have in development is the one that I'd like to share with you today. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Can everybody see that?
Yes, we can.
Terrific. So the project that I wanted to share with you today is called 10th Cavalry Apartments. It's a project we currently have in development, and it's an adaptive reuse in Colchester at historic Fort Ethan Allen. We're working to purchase 3 buildings from St. Michael's College that were most recently used by St. Mike's as dorms and offices, but are now vacant. These are beautiful historic buildings in the Fort Ethan Allen historic neighborhood, which is a great location for housing. It's close to Burlington, Winooski, and the Essex job centers. It's on the most active bus line in the state and has a lot of recreation amenities and conserved land in the neighborhood, and is close to stores and services. These are the buildings that are part of the project that we're working to redevelop: Hamel Hall, Purtle Hall, and DuPont Hall. And in the early 20th century, these buildings housed the 10th Cavalry, also known as the Buffalo Soldiers, who were stationed at Fort Ethan Allen. Though certainly a complex history, it's an important one that we sought to recognize and honor through the name of this redevelopment. The buildings are in need of repair. You can see some of the images of their condition here. And they contain many historic features that will be preserved as a part of the project according to National Park Service standards governed by our use of historic tax credits. You can also see the historic columns and tin ceilings in these photos here. There's also environmental abatement needed of the interior asbestos containing materials, for which we're applying to the Brownfields program. But our plan is to revitalize these buildings through creation of a mixed income community of 64 new apartments. We planned small apartments here, studios and 1-bedrooms, because these are the type most in need in this neighborhood, where there really is a predominance of 2-bedroom apartments. We plan to designate 11 apartments for formerly homeless households. We have a commitment of rental assistance from the Burlington Housing Authority for some of those apartments, which will increase affordability. And we'll also have some unrestricted units. We're completing Department of Environmental Conservation's review of our environmental plans right now, historic review of our renovation plans, and then our plan is to be able to complete construction drawings this summer and begin construction in the fall. We're very appreciative of the HCP's support, without which this project wouldn't be possible. And thank you to your support. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Now, Miranda, I recall from probably about a year ago, there was a wonderful story on the 10th Regiment. Are there any additional historical connotations to the work you want to do on these buildings? For the committees, that members who do not know, the 10th Regiment in the early 1900s was actually an entire regiment of color. And the interactions between them and the townsfolk was pretty interesting to read. They were very impressive playing baseball, especially. And it was a wonderful opportunity for not just the Army, but especially people of color to be assimilating into the community. It's a wonderful story. If you get the opportunity to read about the 10th Regiment, I'd highly recommend it. But Miranda, I'm curious as to whether or not there are any plans for some historical markings as you go through fixing up these buildings.
It's a great question. It really is an interesting history, and it's something I'm continuing to learn about. We've tentatively talked about some interpretive materials or some kind of placard somewhere within one of the buildings, probably in the building that has the most community space. There is already in the neighborhood one of those interpretive signs, kind of a wayfinding sign that speaks about the Buffalo Soldier 10th Cavalry Regiment. But I think it's an opportunity here to tell more of the story.
Good to hear. Anybody have any questions? Senator Mazza. You're
Did
muted.
you
Dick.
have
Oh,
to
there you
buy-
go.
Did you have to buy the buildings or were they were, I heard you say St. Michael's College owned them,
They do.
so
They
you had to
current-
purchase them?
Yes, the plan is to purchase them from St. Michael's College.
Okay. And is that a fixed price or is it because they're such tough shape or did it go on the market for open or you have an advantage?
Well, that's a good question. St. Mike's is eager to sell. We have an option agreement with them right now, and we are continually negotiating that price as we learn more about the environmental condition. They're great partners in this effort, and we want to make sure that the project benefits and is not cost prohibitive. But
Right.
we also want to recognize that St. Michael's College also is looking to be able to have some gains from this asset.
Beautiful location. I mean, you got all the services close by, bus service, everything. It's just a great location. Very, very nice laid out over the years. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else
Senator-
have any questions? Yes, Alice, I can't see your House members, although I can see Marcia waving her hand, it appears.
Senator Martell has a question.
Yes, Miranda, I was just wondering, when you purchase this and it goes into the Champlain Housing Trust, do you pay Act 60 property taxes on these houses or are they exempt?
Good question. Yes, all of our affordable housing does pay property taxes. These buildings, in particular as owned by St. Mike's, are currently not on the tax rolls, but they will be upon our purchase and occupancy.
Thank you.
Any other questions from House members who I can't see?
I don't see any hands up, Senator Benning.
Okay, Miranda, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I wish you all the best of success in getting that project completed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time and your support.
We have Tracy Xiao scheduled next, Executive Director of the Vermont Foundation of Recovery. Tracy, did I obliterate your last name or did I get it close?
You got my name right, but you got my title and organization wrong.
Oh,
So I can introduce myself if you
you're
want.
right. You're the Vice President for Conservation of the Vermont Land Trust.
Correct.
My
Correct. apologies.
No
Welcome.
problem.
Thank you. Thank you. And I am going to share my screen, if I may. Sorry, there it is. Okay. So again, my name is Tracy Xiao and I am Vice President for Conservation at Vermont Land Trust and a resident of St. Johnsbury. Can you see my screen?
Your screenshot of the knob just disappeared,
Okay, let me try
but
again.
I did recognize the location.
Yeah, hold on a sec. I don't know what just happened.
I wish you had a senator from that district that represented you. Well,
Exactly. Hold on. folks.
Oops. That was a good return.
Yeah.
I'm distracted. I'm not sure if I just made a joke I didn't mean to make.
Some as a Benning thing. We'll get it.
you made our Friday. Thank you.
So
You're
Vermont
back.
Land Trust, I'll start there. We were founded in 1977 and we're a statewide land trust that conserves important portions of our landscape, the working lands, the ecologically important areas, and community resources. Land is central to Vermont's identity and our economic prosperity, the health of our ecosystems, and the well-being of our people. And over the past 45 years, Vermont Land Trust has conserved over 2,200 parcels and 635,000 acres of Vermont. We continue to conserve important high-quality agricultural lands that feed us, connected forest blocks to boost our resilience to climate change, and community lands that bring happiness, health, and recreational opportunities, while also focusing on the lands and the landowners that are part of that growing land base through education, technical assistance, and a focus on land access and opportunity. I'd like to thank the members of the committee for taking testimony today about the positive impact that VHCB investments have in our communities. Over my 20+ year career, I've helped protect some pretty cool places with inspiring people around the state. And I've testified before on behalf of the Vermont Housing and Conservation Coalition. But
Tracy?
today, yes,
Tracy, can I just ask you to go back a slide? I want to give my committee a little education. Now, Senate Institutions Committee, that's Interstate 91 on your right-hand side. And you're looking at the beautiful town of St. Johnsbury, the Shire town of Caledonia County, just in case you weren't aware of what you were looking at there.
who has a great senator.
Oh, I'm surprised he
They've also got me.
I'm surprised he knows where
Two
his
great
lo-
senators, excuse me.
Thank you,
Okay.
Tracy. I
Yeah,
just
no
needed to
problem.
educate them.
Yeah, no problem. Well, and I'm here today because I'm getting to talk about VHCB investments in my own community. I'm a St. J resident. And this opportunity that VHCB helped fund, it really was sort of has been the intersection of my career, my community, and one of my favorite places. So skipping to the punchline, the view here and the view you saw a minute ago is a parcel of land that the town of St. Johnsbury acquired in this past December with the help of Vermont Land Trust, a significant grant from VHCB, and over 140 donors and community members representing many facets of our community. The land is locally called Observatory Knob, and it includes the highest point in the village district. It's right on the edge of downtown, as you could see, and it is within a half-mile walk of over 450 households. Mine is one of them. And it is also within walking distance of 13 VHCB-funded affordable housing projects. And the property, which had always been in private ownership, has hosted an informal hiking trail to the top of the knob since the 1880s. And that's where I'll backtrack quickly.
Tracy, can you tell me where that path connects to something I would recognize?
It's right across from Mount Pleasant Cemetery.
Okay, thank you.
The upper part of Mount Pleasant Cemetery.
Yep.
Mount Pleasant Street. So St. J resident Charles Hastings in the late 1800s was the one who named this piece of ground Observatory Knob. And after climbing all the high points in St. Johnsbury, he felt like he had found a place that was worth sharing. And he gathered townspeople together, and they built not one, but two observatories on the top of Observatory Knob, complete with telescopes and spyglasses. Between the years of 1887 and 1914, they had signs mounted to register the location and height of the various mountains you can see from there, which include the White Mountains, the peaks of Mount Pisgah and Mount Hoare that flank Lake Willoughby and Burke Mountain. And in fact, from the top of the observatory, residents could see the little train going up Mount Washington. And in addition to hosting these observatories, the site was also a popular spot for picnics, hikes, and maybe even the first mountain bike team. But unfortunately, both observatories were destroyed by storms, and nothing has been built since. But the unmarked trail.
I just wanted to stop and say to Senator Mazza and Representative Labor, look, those big, tall bicycles, no mandatory helmets. Thank you, Tracy. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. The unmarked trail has remained in use all these years through various private ownerships, and it's a popular spot that the St. Johnsbury Academy cross-country team runs on. Area camps and schools visit it. It's visible from many locations in town, I-91, which Senator Benning pointed out, but also a whole patient wing at Northern Vermont Regional Hospital looks at the knob, as well as many other spots in the downtown. And 13 years ago, a neighbor, David Brown, put up a bench and a mailbox with a logbook on the top of the knob, and also connected trails from his land to the top. He's on his 11th book now, and they're each filled with notes from locals and visitors, writing in all types of weather, about appreciation, and whether it's a daily walk or the commemoration of a milestone. And after many, many sleepy years of tacit public use in private ownership, the majority of the land and the location of the main trail and the open summit, 112 acres, suddenly went on the market in March of 2021 with no warning, following the death of the owner. And this was during, as you know, the most active real estate market in many years. I think I heard from 10 friends and neighbors the first day it went on the market. Word spread really fast. People were concerned. And a group of representatives from a whole bunch of community organizations came together, including the town manager, representatives from St. J Academy, Fairbanks Museum, the Passumpsic Valley Land Trust, Vermont Land Trust, the rec department, the chamber, to visit the property together. And then we collectively wrote a letter endorsing public ownership. And fortunately, the enthusiasm from our town manager was matched by enthusiasm from our select board, and they committed $20,000 towards a purchase if we could raise the rest. And we were able to negotiate then a purchase contract that was contingent on some significant fundraising success in a short period of time. I thought I'd bring a couple other voices in from our community, that of Peggy Pearl, longtime town historian, who wrote, "Over time, many a person has made the trip to the height of land to look out over all of St. Johnsbury and beyond. Folks came on foot, snowshoes, bikes, and even in horse-drawn carriages. It's a wonderful hike right in town to escape the problems of the day, get exercise, and just enjoy the company of friends and family. Keeping that part of history alive and available for all is a win-win." And St. Johnsbury director of the Chamber of Commerce also summed it up well when she said that having a historic and beautiful hiking trail within walking distance of our downtown supports the economic and community vitality of St. Johnsbury, creating more reasons for people to visit and more reasons for residents to stay and feel proud of what our town has to offer. But I have to say that despite very strong support in our community, I am confident we would have fallen short if we had to go it alone. St. Johnsbury is not a wealthy community, and there are a lot of competing demands for town funds. And in an economically challenged part of our state, the community would have been discouraged by a daunting fundraising goal. So an early and significant commitment from VHCB was instrumental to our success. It made the remaining fundraising goal feasible. It encouraged our community that we were on the right track, that we indeed had a gem worth protecting. And the VHCB support leveraged significant community enthusiasm. In addition to the funds from the town, we received the support of 2 private foundations, 2 local banks, the hospital, 7 other local businesses, and over 120 individuals who came together to make this possible. And once the momentum to purchase the original 112 acres took off, the neighbor I mentioned, David Brown, who's 85 years old, he decided to subdivide and donate 5 acres of his own land to the town to be part of this new town forest and add additional trails to the effort. It's been a big year in St. Johnsbury, pandemic aside. The New Avenue Hotel renovation and rejuvenation of affordable housing and street level retail space, exciting investments in our historic Fairbanks Museum, and now the acquisition of a really key parcel of land that provides hiking and outdoor recreation within walking distance of the downtown and so many people. You know, these have all been made possible by VHCB investments. I think it's a wonderful illustration of the really innovative and unique funding source that VHCB is. I think VHCB helps make Vermont a better place to live, period. So thank you.
Tracy, is this a view north?
Well, I just stopped sharing. It's a view south. That's south from a slightly different direction.
Yep.
With a drone, we had fun with drones.
I'll bet. You should know that the 2 committees you are now testifying before were instrumental in getting the monies for the completion of the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, and I think I'd like to say thanks to our House counterparts for putting that effort in. I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to the state.
You may have
Senator
seen
Mazza.
the note from
How
Jillian.
much was the price? How much was the price of the land?
It was $200,000.
Well, that's not bad. That's pretty reasonable. How many acres?
112 is what we purchased, and then 5 acres were donated.
Wow, that's not bad in today's world. The price of the land all over the place. Yeah.
Well, and I will say that the collective letter that the community wrote, we actually delivered it to the sellers first, and they ended up doing a bargain sale to us, and they had other offers on the land, but they were really they ended up being wonderful partners with us. They gave us a little more time than your average real estate transaction because they could see the the impact that a public purchase would make.
Well, plus the donation from the chair made a big difference. Yeah, Senator Benning. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Representative Martell, I can see your hand.
Just to let you all know, I used to work with Dave Brown at St. Johnsbury Trucking Company.
Yeah, Dave and I actually go back a ways too. It's interesting that you worked with him at the trucking company. I still see one of those trucks on the road sometimes. Is that Representative Campbell with his hand up?
I just want, you can probably tell from Tracy's presentation that she was deeply involved in this. I would say she was even instrumental in getting this done. So thank you, Tracy. It was really terrific.
Oh, well, thank you very much. It was one of the more fun experiences I've had, and it really was a community effort.
Other questions? Anybody else want to compliment Tracy while we're at it?
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Representative Taylor, the maintenance of the property, how is that handled?
Oh, great question. You know, I was going to note that and I was trying to save time. So Vermont Land Trust actually in recent years has made it a best practice that when we set up a fundraising campaign for a community acquisition, that we include a management fund as part of our fundraising goal. And that is because we have come to realize that just acquiring the land does not mean that it is going to be vibrant and accessible. You really need to invest in that land, and helping communities start off well is really important to us. So we included a management fund in the goal that the town holds that is restricted just to this property. And it can fund things like management planning, trail maintenance, trail signs. A parking lot is planned because currently there is no parking associated with the parcel. So you can walk there, but you can't drive there. So the town owns it. The town will likely put together a management committee of some sort and go from there with these funds in hand.
Good. The management fund must be almost more than the price of the property.
Not yet, but that would be a good goal.
Anybody else? Senator McCormick, I see a hand up. You're muted, Dick.
Sorry. I just want to observe, we're trying to provide for more housing and at the same time to avoid sprawl development. And so our policy has been to encourage downtown development, including infilling, building in the spaces between existing buildings. And it has been troubling me for some time that we're not paying enough attention to it. All of that is true, but that we also need to be aware of the need for green spaces in the developed areas. And I think of Boston Commons or Central Park in Manhattan. And so too, just pretty much you want to provide the fact that this is within walking distance of downtown makes it, I think, especially desirable. It's especially a good idea. It's not just that it's a good hiking trail, beautiful view, but that it's within walking access from downtown. So well done.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Tracy, thank you very much for coming by and explaining to these committees what the Northeast Kingdom is all about. You've done a wonderful job and we appreciate you coming by.
Thank you very much. And thank you again for supporting VHCB.
David Regal, Executive Director of the Vermont Foundation of Recovery. David, welcome. I'm trusting that Regal is actually how you pronounce your last name.
We're batting 1,000, sir.
So far, so good.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here. Thank you to the committee and thank you to the coalition as well. My name is David Regal and I live in Colchester, Vermont. Our mission is to create a statewide network of recovery homes to help people suffering from substance use disorder re-assimilate into society by supporting the transitions from active use to recovery to independent living. We started.
Yeah, I have to stop you right here, David.
Here we go. I thought there was something coming.
Do you actually have to patronize the Mazda General Store? Is that
Well, I would say I've been there a time or two. Yep, and I find it absolutely delightful.
Oh, there, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Take that one.
Yeah, I missed that question. That was not the right question. David, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we try to have fun on Fridays.
Absolutely, I can appreciate that. So our organization started at the end of 2013, and our goal was really to take, what back then was referred to as sober homes or sober houses out of the shadows and into the light. We wanted to create high quality, transparent, peer-to-peer supportive environments that gave people recovering from substance use disorder a safe place that was substance free to be able to establish themselves in recovery and also to develop the life skills necessary to be able to live independently. I myself am a person in long-term recovery, and for me that means that I haven't had a mood or mind-altering substance since January 11th of 2007. And when I came out of inpatient treatment, the fact that my roommates in my apartment at that time were willing to remove all substances from our living environment and agree to not have people over who were engaging in that behavior meant everything to me. And not everybody has that opportunity. Many people go back to the same environment that they were in. And it's really challenging to be able to maintain recovery and grow as people when you're surrounded by the use of substances. So we also, as an organization, led the effort to bring the Vermont Alliance of Recovery Residences and get them established and up and running. And that really was born back in, before 2013. We were sitting in the living room of my childhood home on East Street in Waterbury. And we were with, back then it was Senator Polina, and it was Representative Tom Stevens and Rebecca Ellis from Waterbury. And nobody had ever heard of what a sober house or recovery residence was back then. And it was Senator Polina that suggested that as we move forward, we look to adopt the organic farmers model in saying that a recovery residence in the state of Vermont is a certified or an approved recovery residence if we as other recovery home operators say they are. And that led us on this effort for, standards and best practices. And we found NAR, which is the National Alliance of Recovery Residences. And they encourage states to create their own affiliates. And that creates a certification process. So today in Vermont, VTAR certifies recovery residences to national standards and best practices. And they are a forum for helping operators to do the best that they can to serve folks living in those homes, and also helping people to establish and understand the process for creating recovery residences and helping communities to understand what recovery residences really are and how we can best lift up folks in recovery from substance use disorder. So as an organization, we've now grown. We started in 2013 with a loan, right? We were in debt, and now we have homes in St. Albans, Essex, Morrisville, St. Johnsbury, and just in January opened our newest recovery residence in Rutland. We serve up to 48 individuals at any given time. And we're currently working on projects to expand our recovery residence availability for women in Essex in partnership with Champlain Housing Trust. We're working to open a home for women with children in Barrie in partnership with Down Street Housing. And we're working with Shires Housing in Bennington to create a home down there for women as well. We currently partner with Champlain Housing Trust for our homes in Essex, and we partner with Rural Edge for our home in St. Johnsbury. And all of these projects with the nonprofit housing providers are made possible by funding provided by the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, as well as the Vermont Community Development Program. And what it does is it allows them to take care of the brick and mortar side of things. And it allows us to focus on the things that we do really well, which is the people side of things. And so, we really believe that those kind of relationships moving forward are the right way to go in terms of providing each of us doing what we do best. And, as you folks are all aware of, Vermont had the highest increase in overdose deaths of any state in 2021. And unfortunately, roughly half of all the certified recovery residence beds in Vermont were forced to close during the pandemic. And a lot of that is because of unsustainable cost structures, as well as a lack of funding for the operation side of things, and homes struggling to really operate in a financially sustainable way. So as the pandemic came along and costs increased and, for a while, the occupancy rates decreased for a variety of reasons, homes were not able to stay open. So as you folks are all aware, we have to support those in recovery from substance use disorder, and we really need to do it now with a range of options that lets individuals decide what's right for them. And we believe that the partnership between nonprofit housing providers and organizations like Vermont Foundation of Recovery, providing recovery residences around the state, coupled with the proposed addition of funding to the base budget made by the governor for operations themselves, those things collectively pave a path forward toward helping Vermonters with recovery residences being available in a long-term and sustainable way. So we're very grateful for your continued support of Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, which allows them to continue to fund these recovery residence projects in partnership with the local nonprofit housing providers. Thank you.
David, we appreciate you coming. I'm initially curious, the individuals who come, did they have any responsibilities within the household? I mean, other than staying sober?
Absolutely. So we encourage people to identify their own path to recovery. For some, that's 12-step. For some, that's a variety of other things. So we partner closely with the recovery centers in these communities. And then folks need to work, volunteer, or go to school a minimum of 20 hours per week to be engaged in the community. Folks have chores within the house. It's really about developing life skills and developing the patterns and the behaviors that will be necessary for them to transition into independent living.
Prior to COVID and then into COVID, did you notice a demographic change of any kind?
I mean, I would say that the most significant thing that changed was our occupancy rates. I mean, people were not as, they didn't have the ability to get into inpatient treatment, which is probably the major funnel into recovery residences. And so as that slowed and the struggles around inpatient treatment, became worse and worse over time, the occupancy at the recovery residences did as well. That has rebounded. We're back to where we were occupancy-wise pre-pandemic.
Thank you. Committees. Not sure who that is that has her hand up in the house.
Westminster. Hi, hi, David. I have a few questions for you. So I'm from Windham County, and I spent a lot of my life pre-legislature as a sort of social worker, housing type person, both working with youth who had housing issues and also in reentry programs for people that had come out of prison. And I know one of the resources that we had used a lot in our county was Phoenix House, and that's no longer there. So I guess my first question is there any possibility you might expand down to our corner of the state? Because there's really a need for these kind of programs, and it could be a great opportunity.
Our goal is to be statewide. Our mission is to have a recovery residence for any population that a community identifies that there is a need for in the communities that have recovery centers. So, if there's a recovery center in your community, we want to be there. And, it's really about having the resources and all of the things that go into being able to expand across the state in a responsible way.
Okay, so a couple other questions. In terms of the model that you use in your centers, is it sort of a housing first model where you come in, you get supported, and if you have a relapse, you get another chance? Or is it a one strike and you're out model? Because it's a really different philosophy, and some of the programs have had a really hard time surviving with some of the models they've chosen.
So we believe that people come in at different rates and we all grow come in at different places and we all grow at different rates, right? And so, the goal is to meet people where they're at while balancing the safe substance-free environment that everybody needs in early recovery. It's voluntary for people to come to any one of our homes. In the event that somebody experiences a reoccurrence of their disease, we make sure that there's a safe location for them to be able to go for, a few days or several days, depending on what they need for space in order to get substances out of their system. And then We evaluate on a case-by-case basis if it's appropriate for them to be able to return back to that home. Maybe it's a different recovery residence. Maybe that person decides that they need a different level of care, or they want to take a different route themselves. But our goal is, as long as the events that happened within the home are not so traumatic that it has a negative impact for that person to return, we want to make it available for them to be able to come back.
Thanks. So final question, can you say a little bit about the cost structure? If somebody's going to join one of these programs, what does that cost compared to if they were to rent in a non-recovery residence? How
Sure.
affordable is it, basically?
Our goal is to stay affordable. So we charge membership dues. It is a whole program that goes beyond just the housing aspect of it. So the membership dues in Chittenden County are about $150 a week. Outside of Chittenden County, it's about $145 a week. And we do have the benefit of some state funding that helps us provide scholarships to people who are new. There's always been support from churches and other community organizations to help people get on their feet. And then to be honest with you, that is, a little bit less than half of what it costs for us to actually provide those resources. So as an organization, we fundraise the rest of our annual budget.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions, committee?
Yep, I do.
Sure,
Do
go
you
ahead.
have a relationship with the Department of Corrections at all?
We do. It's not a formal one, so we're not, part of the program where we're funded through the Department of Corrections by any means, but we certainly have several people who come to us from the Department of Corrections.
And did you have one before? I know we've made a change moving from aggregate housing into scattered. Did you have a relationship with them before?
Not formally. Again, it was the same deal. We've never been funded directly by the Department of Corrections, but we've always accepted folks into our home, provided that they're a good fit.
And how's your capacity? Are you full most of the time, or?
So our goal is to be somewhere between 85 and 90% occupied, because we want to make sure that we do have space when people need it. It's not good practice to have a waiting list, especially when you're trying to help people coming directly out of inpatient treatment. So, right now we are at about 90% occupied across all of our homes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anybody else have any questions? Senator McCormick, you're muted, Dick.
As usual. Several years ago, I was on Senate Health and Welfare, and we took testimony from sober houses that they were having a problem, that there were places that were not very well run or supervised, calling themselves sober houses and kind of diluting the effort and undermining the credibility of the good sober houses. How's that working out for you now?
So I think there's been a dramatic improvement since the Vermont Alliance of Recovery Residences has been established and started the certification process. So it's pretty clear to delineate homes that have been certified and are operating under national best practices compared to ones that, for whatever reason, choose not to be certified. So at the very least, it is transparent which category recovery residences fall into.
Thanks.
Any other questions? David, I want to thank you very much for coming to join us this afternoon.
Thank
We
you.
may
And
very
yeah,
well see
really
you
appreciate
again.
this. Thank you very much,
Okay.
sir.
Patrick Shattuck, Executive Director of Rural Edge. Welcome to the stage, sir. I'm going to, before you start, I'm going to turn this over to Senator McCormick, my vice chair, for a moment, because I've got to go check on my cat. And I will be right back.
Well, welcome, and let's hear from you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Shattuck, and I'm the Executive Director of Rural Edge, the primary affordable housing developer serving the Northeast Kingdom. We've been in existence for about 34 years, have about 700 units spread across the Northeast Kingdom, have a home ownership center, have a community building and engagement team, and also administer the SASH, Support and Services at Home program, to the Northeast Kingdom as well as Orange County. It's great to be here today and speak to our work and really speak to the importance of VHCB's funding in the implementation of that work. We are busy, like all of our housing colleagues, in searching out new development and new units. But really one area of focus that we are looking at, and I know that our friends at CHT spoke to it, is the adaptive reuse of historic buildings. Still, in the last year, we've added about 100 units of new affordable housing to our portfolio, a third of those providing permanent housing to those moving from homelessness. And, it's great to note that, those include the redevelopment. Tracy mentioned New Avenue, which is a former hotel. We also acquired 18 units at Bright Look, which is the former St. Johnsbury Hospital. And today I'm going to talk to you about the Cherry Street Hotel, which is the original St. Johnsbury Jail and Jailer's Cottage, where we will see completion and occupancy in the next 6 weeks. And I'll share my screen. Oh. Is it possible to enable me to share my screen?
Yes, it is. You should be good to go now.
Okay. So here you can see the project as it stands today, and in the upper right-hand corner is a 1908 postcard where on the back, the new jail was referred to as the Cherry Street Hotel. We are renovating it in a very short time frame. This will add operating efficiencies to other units we've had and amenities to older properties that are actually adjacent to it, while preserving this great historic resource, which is right near the center of downtown St. Johnsbury. The building hadn't housed inmates since the correctional facility opened in 1982 and was subsequently converted to office space. And that we found was actually easily reconfigured into residential units. This only came on the market last year. And at that time, it had been unoccupied for over a year after serving multiple office uses for about 30 years since it had been renovated. We had definitely taken note of the building, in part because it was adjacent to the rear of 2 other properties that we own. Although it sits about 30 feet above, on top of a retaining wall that's less than 10 feet from those buildings. It was massive and it loomed and it was deteriorating quickly and it created concern, but it also generated opportunity for us. In all, we've been able to take advantage of the original design of the jail and its attached jailer's cottage and carriage house. So on this of the site plan, you can see the complex. There is the jail in the center. Immediately north of that was the jailer's cottage. Immediately north of that was the carriage house. And to the right are 2 buildings that we had previously owned. We've created 9 units, 7 1-bedroom and 2 2-bedroom units. We've taken advantage of the original design and to create bright units that maintain the character and maximize the sense of the privacy in a dense downtown development. We were careful to use the original porches and openings to create private entrances and separate outdoor spaces for the units. We were also took advantage of a grade to address accessibility and eliminate an unsightly and intrusive ramp that previously dominated the site and overwhelmed the elevation. There was a historic facade easement on the jail building, and we worked with the Preservation Trust to maintain the unique character defining components, and some of these really create unique spaces. We've maximized green space opportunities, allowing for linkages. You'll see on this site plan in the upper right-hand corner, there is a new staircase down to our other buildings so that we can take advantage of the yard. which truly was the yard. When we purchased the building, it had a 12-foot high chain link fence around it that even you could see where the barbed wire had been run. And our renovations are allowing this as green space for all the units, and they'll have raised garden beds there. We'll also have on-site services at the building. The original jailer's office will be staffed by Northeast Kingdom Community Action staff, as well as our own SASH program. The services will be available to residents of our other buildings. And since we started on this, we've got site control of the building immediately to the north, which has recently been damaged by fire and is vacant. So we will be addressing another blight in the neighborhood. Now, these units are going to be occupied by people moving from homelessness, but these are permanent housing units. All of them will have permanent rental assistance. Our goal and hope is that ultimately the residents who occupy these spaces find security and stability and will make this their longtime home. You know, I think it's important to note we've had great success with that. Last December, or a year ago, December 2020, we completed our first 7 units set aside for families moving from homelessness. And this last December, we celebrated a year of keeping all of those families, some with as many as 4 kids, their first anniversary in housing. And they have stable housing, they're active in their schools, parents have been able to get jobs. And I think that's so indicative of what happens when someone's provided with an opportunity and safe, affordable housing. Likewise, at our Mountain View development, which is our largest development, with 48 units, we've got a stable, attractive community with an engaged resident association that created and staffed their own food shelf and have huge gardens that produce produce for all the residents. But more than half of those residents originally moved in from experiencing homelessness. You know, these are great success stories, stories that we're pleased to share. And, you know, we frequently hear about the worries of affordable housing, about their impact on communities. And here, I think the conclusion is very clear. There's a fantastic positive impact on the community. Within a block of this project, we have over 100 units of perpetually affordable housing in 5 separate developments. Tracy mentioned 13 buildings that we have that are close to their conservation project. You know, these are all supported with funding through VHCB. They're old and new, all sizes and styles, originated with different uses, but they blend seamlessly simply because these units and their residents are integral to the community. You know, as we strive to create more housing units, we need to acknowledge our successes and celebrate the impact of our work. So thank you all for your support of VHCB, of projects like the Cherry Street Hotel, and of the important task of developing and operating quality, affordable housing. And I've got some more photos. You can see the interiors of the units. We were actually required to keep the bars on one of the windows, and the original easement actually kept one of the cells within the building. So it will actually be a study in one of the apartments, the door welded open, and a little reading nook. So we're really excited to keep this great property, give it new life, and may add to the perpetually affordable housing in our community.
Thank you. That's a good presentation. We have, is Senator Benning back?
He is.
Oh, I'll hand it off to you, Mr. Chairman.
You're doing well there for a moment, Richard.
It wasn't easy.
I was going to ask Patrick, you said the cell was welded. How difficult is it to unweld it? Because I've heard from Senator Mazza's wife that if you guys let them move in there, that would be his bedroom now.
We wanted to make sure that it was safe and respected its use, but didn't create any opportunities for that.
Senator Mazza wants to chip in now.
No, I'm just curious, when we speak about affordable housing, what does that mean? Affordable housing? Does it mean a certain rent high or low, or because you say you got 700 units? And my other question would be, what's the vacancy rate in that many units in different areas of the state? I know Chittenden County's never has enough, but I'm just wondering in other parts of the state. So just a couple of questions. What's affordable housing and what?
So for our portfolio, the bulk of it is restricted to households of under 80% of median income. That's the VHCB restriction. About 80% of our units actually have rent subsidies. So they are further restricted to households at less than 50% of area median income. And that is based on the actual incomes of the communities we serve and the need there. So we tend to skew a lower income service than other housing organizations across the state. That doesn't mean that we don't have unrestricted units and market rate units. We're increasingly trying to serve a diverse mix and acknowledge the role that we play in helping folks of all incomes achieve housing. Lots of that is addressed by our home ownership center in serving folks 80% and above. We have a vacancy rate in our portfolio of right about 2%. And that is basically as low as we can go. It's as fast as a unit is turned over. We are filling it. Our longest waiting lists, each property has its own waiting list. They average about 60 people for a waiting list for a specific development. The most being for 1-bedroom subsidized units. And in time, that means about 4 years before someone rises to the top.
And how's the rent income? Do they pay what's the rate of failure for people paying rent? I mean, is it a lot of money, or is it?
So for our portfolio, again, having that rental subsidy where they pay 30% of their income is important because of the low incomes of the households we serve. We've got a very good collection rate. Our property managers are very active. They're on site at the properties, and we have services. So if there are any difficulties, we address it early with the tenants. And certainly we've been making sure that if they've experienced hardships because of COVID, that we're making sure they avail themselves of any back rent assistance.
It's amazing throughout the state. I don't care what area you talk to, the population is not growing in the state, yet apartments or housing is such a shortage. And this area, Chittenden, they're building hundreds and hundreds, and they're always filled. And you wonder where the people are coming from. In houses, you can't buy houses, and you just wonder, without the big influx of new people, where are these apartments? You're saying in St. Johnsbury and all over the state, there's a shortage of housing. It's just amazing.
Senator Parent.
How much does local zoning impact you? I've noticed that local zoning seems to kind of put a damper on a lot of projects just with minimum lot sizes and such.
So, we serve a lot of different communities, and it varies from community to community across the kingdom. In St. Johnsbury, especially where we're working on existing buildings in the downtown, we are able to address density issues and include parking. This is in the St. Johnsbury jail was in a design review district. They were so appreciative of our consideration of the historic elements and how we treated the site. We have a really strong partnership with the town of St. Johnsbury and other communities. So making sure that the projects are originating from community identified needs helps through that whole process.
Any other questions?
I'll jump in, Joe. This is Scott Campbell. I serve on the board of Rural Edge, and Patrick Shattuck joined us, what is it, 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah, I'm in year 4.
Something like that. I just want folks to know what an amazing job he has done taking an organization that was really at risk, and today it is thriving. VHCB actually was also instrumental in helping Rural Edge get back on its feet. So thank you, Patrick.
Well, thank you. And thank you to all of you, because the support and the services we provide are so imperative for the Northeast Kingdom.
So Patrick, do you have Scott's mailing address for that next campaign check that he wants? I thought I saw another hand in the House section.
Michelle.
Yes, good morning or afternoon.
Yeah, great. So thank you, Patrick. I'm just wondering, it sounds like your organization is kind of similar to one we have down in the my corner of the state, Wyndham and Windsor Housing Trust. And
Yes.
they do some great work. It's very similar, sounds like similar kinds of projects to what you do. And I'm just wondering, in the communities, when you're developing a new project, how often do you end up having conflict in the community where some people don't want you to build in a particular site? Because we've experienced some projects that to a lot of people seem like a really great opportunity. And yet there's sometimes is resistance to building in the site that is determined to be the best one. I'm wondering if you could just speak a little bit to your experience with that.
Sure. I think you all, there's always some NIMBY, not in my backyard. I think, you have those conversations. There are concessions throughout the design process where you address concerns. And I think being clear about what you can address and what the restraints of your development are, be it for cost or service. Ultimately, we want to be a good neighbor. And we're a responsive neighbor. And speaking to the Windsor Wyndham Housing Trust, they've got a great director, great staff. We partner with them all the time. I was on with Elizabeth Bridgewater yesterday for probably 2 hours dealing with different partnerships we have, even though we serve different areas across the state. So I think, being open and receptive to feedback and acknowledging concerns, but also being very frank about what we do and the length we go to make sure that we are a good neighbor. And, we serve some really vulnerable folks who have a lot of challenges. And I think that collectively we do a fantastic job in creating resources that are so imperative and lead to the improvement of health and well-being for the entire community.
Thank you.
So with that, Patrick, I'll close out with you by saying Lindenville and St. Johnsbury are looking really sharp these days, and you guys have done a heck of a job. Thank you very much for coming to join us.
Thank you very much, Senator Benning.
We're going to shift to John Binhammer, who I understand is the project director for the Nature Conservancy. John, did I destroy your last name, or is that how you pronounce it?
Oh, you got it just right. Thank you, Senator Benning.
Still moving good. That's
He likes to hear that phrase, so just continue.
right. I just have to, John, before you begin, I just have to warn my House colleagues that I noticed Alice Emmons is returned, so you guys have got to stop telling jokes about her.
Or swearing about me.
Well,
John, welcome to the Institutions Committees.
Thank you very much, Senator Benning. And I am cognizant of time here. I understand your schedule notes that you have something else at 2:15 and it's now 2:16. So I can either, you can either read my testimony separately and I can just give you a brief slideshow, or I can do whatever you'd like.
Well, let me ask, the next witness would be Eric Blatt. Eric, you were here with us yesterday. I see that you are on the screen. Are you okay being held up a couple minutes?
Yes, and we have Julie Moore and Ben Rain here with us as well today.
Okay, I should ask the same thing of the secretary. Julie, are you okay with being held up a couple minutes? You may actually learn a whole lot of things if you hang around and listen.
I am. Thank you.
And Ben, I'm going to have to assume you're also okay with it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. John, we're back to you. Welcome.
All right.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen here. And appreciate the time and the opportunity to provide testimony regarding the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board's impact on Vermonters' quality of life. I am the protection director for the Nature Conservancy, and our mission is to conserve the lands and waters on which all life depends. And our vision is a world where the diversity of life thrives and people act to conserve nature for its own sake and for its ability to fulfill our needs and enrich our lives. And we have, we were founded in 1951. We're a global organization. We have an office in Montpelier and in Pulteney. And I'm a proud resident of Brookfield, where I'm coming to you from right now. So a little bit about, I want to take you back to about the mid-90s when the HCB was young, relatively young, and the Nature Conservancy acquired a couple of properties in the islands. And I want to take you up there and explain what we've done here. So, so most recently, we acquired Alberg Bluffs, which is adjacent to the Alberg Dunes State Park. It's got a ton of frontage on Lake Champlain and beautiful wetlands and uplands and views. The pictures kind of speak for themselves. The map here you'll see on the right shows the existing Alberg Dunes State Park, 608 acres that we bought over 20 years ago. And the parcel that we acquired recently is in red. And that was owned by the same family, but we couldn't bite off all of that at the time. So we kept negotiating with the family, and it was in an estate. And finally, the probate judge decided that 17 years or 18 years in the estate was too long and gave them 6 months to sell the property. A new executor gave them 6 months to sell the property. So we scrambled to do an appraisal of the property, made them an offer. That offer was accepted, and so we were able to close on the property prior to a transfer to the state. And here's another view of the property. And this is what it could have been. So the property was subdivided into 18 lots. 2 of those lots were sold, but 16 lots were left, and they each had 300 feet of frontage, these classic spaghetti lots. And so they all could have been built on. And here are just some pretty pictures of the place. It's quite stunning. And I'd love to take you all up there sometime because it is just gorgeous.
Do I see a sign on the screen that says "This way to Maz's General Store"?
No, that's not my
That's
district.
my district, Joe.
That took, Mr. Parent took that away from me. That's not my district.
Yeah, that's mine. But Alberg Dunes, when you see the sandy beaches, some of the best beaches in the state over where the state park is, I mean, this is beautiful too.
I might add, they don't represent him as well as I did.
Well, they got 2 for the price of 1, but we still call it Palmer's Beach.
Yeah.
Yep. That's right. And so, so we did an ecological inventory of this parcel and found this incredible biodiversity there: 16 natural communities, 27 rare, threatened, and endangered species. So this is really a biodiversity hotspot and a recreational hotspot for Vermonters and visitors as well. So you can see here the purchase price for the property and the VHCB investment, as well as federal money that's come into the project from the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which was authorized, reauthorized and fully funded by Congress just in the last couple of years. And I'm open to any questions, and I don't want to take any more of your time because I know you're busy.
Any questions? If we could take the screenshot down, John, although it's a beautiful shot.
I will do that.
It enables me to see the rest of the folks that are here. Any questions or comments? I don't see anybody. John,
right.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
We are going to be shifting gears at this point. Alice, are you and your folks going to remain with us?
No, because we have some testimony scheduled that we're going to jump to here in about 5 minutes. So we will Zoom off, but I want to thank you. I want to thank all the folks who testified. I'm sorry I missed quite a bit of it. I was tied up with another meeting, but I'm sure it was really helpful to the committee members. And I want to thank the senators for offering to do a joint meeting.
Anytime you need some guidance, let us know. We'll guide you again, okay?
I can't wait for you guys to get in the building. Then you can really tell us what to do.
And I just want to thank your committee members for the new repertoire of jokes we have for you next time we meet.
I'm here. I'm sitting in Joe's committee room right now.
Oh, that's that painting I recognized.
Yes.
All right.
Good to
Thank you. Thank you all for having the coalition in. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris, and everybody who's come. I hope you enjoyed your time with us here today, and you always get the opportunity to see yourself again on YouTube if you want to go back and check it out.
Thank you.
Secretary Moore, I did not have your name on my list, but I think you technically outrank Eric. Am I correct?
No doubt.
And
No
and-
doubt.
And let me tell you, she does a great job. Thank you for all the good work you do. Appreciate it.
Well, I had Eric on my list first, but Secretary Moore, if you wanted to go first and do the lead in, that's perfectly up to you.
I'm just, obviously, we're here today to talk in particular about some of the agency's dam safety initiatives. I'm happy to turn it over to the people with the deep technical knowledge, which is Eric and Ben. But know that there may be some questions about the types of funding, the flavor of the money that's being proposed, and can provide it either as background or context on the other end in terms of how we landed in the Capitol bill with this particular dams request, which is different than when we had appeared in front of your committee last year.
Okay, we appreciate you coming by. Eric, you've been described as the technical person. How's your technology today?
Well, I think Ben fits that role. I thought, just on a lighter note, I'd like to mention that I've extended the boundaries of the Northeast Kingdom even further, and I'm testifying from Montpelier today.
Oh no, Eric, don't go down there. Well, we appreciate you having come back. It looks like your technology is better than it was the other day.
Yes, it's a little bit better. We did submit a PowerPoint or PDF of the PowerPoint. So if Alex can manage that again for us, that would be great. I'll just start this off, but turn it over to Ben to run through these slides. There are 8 slides. And again, this testimony is about the dam safety appropriations in the Budget Adjustment Act. So Ben, I'm going to pass it on to you at this point. Go through the slides.
Thanks, Eric. For the record, Ben Green, Chief Dam Safety Engineer at the Department of Environmental Conservation Dam Safety Program. Here today to talk about Waterbury Dam Spillway Project and dam safety and hydrology projects. And this image here on the cover slide is a drone photo of Waterbury Dam, which is the kind of the crown jewel of the state's dam ownership portfolio. Next slide, please. I just wanted to before going into some of the nuts and bolts of the Waterbury and the dam and hydrology projects, I just want to take a step back and just give a brief overview of the dam safety program. We're located in the Water Investment Division. Our responsibilities include both dam regulation and dam ownership. On the regulatory side, we regulate about 1,000 non-power generating, non-federally owned dams in the state. And on the ownership side, we're the state's direct owner representative at 14 state-owned dams. And also as kind of part of our ownership role at these dams, we do have some land management responsibilities. Current staffing, our program is on the smaller side. Up until last month, we only had a staff of 2. We've recently hired on 2 additional junior engineers. So our staff is on the upswing at the moment. On the regulatory side, we operate under State Statute 10, Chapter 43 dams. Changes to that statute that were made in 2018 gave us increased authorities, including rulemaking authority, kind of catch us up with federal standards and what other states are doing to manage dam safety. And those rules are under construction at the moment. We also recently, the dam safety program was also recently audited by the state auditor. The audit largely focused on our dam inspection program and our inventorying procedures. And we're hopeful that the audit provides us with an opportunity for potentially different additional program improvements and resources. Next slide, please. So I want to move now into the Waterbury Dam Spillway project. This is on line item on in section 9, letters A and F of the Act, and line 75 of the BAA. The project, as currently sits, is at the Dam Safety Modification Study stage, or DSMS, which is kind of intermediate stage in the project, with future spending going towards necessary design and construction. We in fiscal year 22, $750,000 match with the Army Corps of Engineers, and in fiscal year 23, another $750,000 match. And this project, throughout its work, is being coordinated with the New England District of the Army Corps of Engineers. And there's matching rates at different phases of the project. They vary a little bit. Initial assessment and risk assessment was 35% state, 65% federal. The DSMS stage is 50%, 50%, and design and construction are back to the 35% state and 65% federal.
So Ben, let me just stop you for a second for the benefit of our viewing audience on YouTube. Section 9 you're referring to of natural resources is actually a piece of the capital bills. What's the word I'm looking for? Spreadsheet. And when referring to line 75 in the Budget Adjustment Act, that's what BAA stands for. But the bottom line is you are now discussing a piece of the vehicle that we deal with every year called the capital bill. And this is from section 9 of that bill. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. I guess I'm ready to move to the next slide that just goes a little bit more in depth into the Waterbury Dam Spillway project. Just take a quick step back. As a reminder, it's roughly a $60 million project as estimated. As I alluded to, we're working with the New England District of the Army Corps of Engineers. And the steps of the project are listed here. The first was the risk assessment, which was completed recently. And now we're what's called the Dam Safety Modification Study, which is basically taking the information that was learned from the risk assessment, which basically identified the highest risk elements associated with the dam and studies those additionally so that we can allow design once we get to that phase to focus further. So we're hoping to be completed with the Dam Safety Modification Study next fall of 23. And then the project will hopefully move fairly rapidly into design with construction, at least at this point, scheduled to start somewhere in the 2025 timeframe, and likely, given that the size and magnitude of the project, take a couple of years. While the scope of the design and construction has not really been finalized, like I said, we're still sort of in the study phase. Based on kind of what's been figured out so far, it appears likely the remedial work is going to include things like installation of post-tensioned anchors in the spillway elements of the concrete spillway elements you can see in this image here at the bottom of this photograph to add stability to the structure, resurfacing of the entirety of the concrete of the spillway, structural shoring and sandblasting and painting of the original, basically, and reuse of the original 3 spillway gates, replacement of this man bridge that you see that extends over the top of the spillway, with a much larger, wider bridge that can allow for vehicle access, which will certainly help us a lot with maintenance. And with that would come all new lifting equipment or operating equipment for the gates themselves. And then kind of lastly, the thing that's sort of been identified up to this point is that the bedrock that this spillway is founded on is a fairly questionable quality. And there is concern that high flows is causing erosion of this rock that could threaten stability or at least operability of the spillway in the long term. So probably a structural concrete slab or splash pad, as they're called, on the downstream side of the spillway. It's probably going to be incorporated in the project to kind of arrest that potential risk. So that's kind of.
Can I ask, does every dam in the state go through this same process?
No, this process is unique to the Army Corps of Engineers. We're following the Army Corps of Engineers, being a federal agency. They follow a certain set of manuals and procedures for everything. And basically this dam's going through their procedure almost as though it's one of their own dams. And this would be the procedure that they would follow. A smaller dam at the state level would go through some of these same elements, but in a less formal process.
Is there a frequency for that to happen?
In
other words, there are local dams here. I can take Great Falls as the classic example. How often would that go through any kind of a risk assessment?
So currently, and from today and into the past, dams are regulated by my program, which again are not non-power producing, non-federal dams, would have what's called a periodic inspection done on it based on hazard potential classification. So it would basically be looked at in a 2 to 10 year time frame. It wouldn't be anything this detailed as this, though it would be more just a visual inspection, development of recommendations and things like that. Kind of moving forward, dams of higher risk, as our rules get completed, will be required to go through what's called a comprehensive inspection at a 10 to 15 year frequency that will include a risk assessment as part of that work, which is again hasn't been kind of completed on dams in the past, but moving into the future as these rules are completed will become something that's getting done at these dams, at most high and significant hazard dams in the state.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide, please. So next, I'd like to pivot into the dam safety and hydrology projects. This is the line item is in section 9, letters A and E of the Act, and line 74 of the BAA. I just want to note with the influx of approximately $5 million in general funds into our program for dam safety purposes, several of the projects that we presented last year to you have been somewhat reprogrammed for strategic reasons into that funding source. So we've taken a little bit different approach. Specific projects that remain programmed through capital funding are listed here: Lake Morey Dam Rehabilitation Project and Little Hosmer Dam Rehabilitation Project. And these two scopes of work are fairly similar. They include work including boundary surveys, followed up by typical dam assessment, design, and ultimate construction of improvements to these two dams. And then the third element here, and again, so those are programmed through fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23 monies, as outlined in this table here. And then the next element is it part of the ARPA, the general fund money that we got, the $5 million. One of the projects that we're running right now is a risk assessment of 21 high and significant hazard A&R owned dams in the state. So we're doing basically a somewhat similar risk assessment to the one I just discussed that got done at Waterbury, but we're going to do a similar study on a somewhat smaller scale, but a portfolio scale. So we're going to do a risk assessment of 21 dams, high and significant hazard dams. A high hazard potential dam is one that in the event of a dam failure, loss of life is probable, and a significant hazard dam is one that in the event of a dam failure, loss of life is not probable, but we expect significant property damages downstream. So we're going to do a risk assessment. We're going to do a risk assessment of those 21 A&R owned dams that will allow us to essentially rack and stack them in terms of the risk that each individual dam poses, and that way allows us to attack the projects with the proposed funding here aggressively to essentially buy down the state's risk portfolio associated with the dams. So what we're going to learn from the study is which of the 21s have the highest risk elements associated with them, and that's where we know we want to focus our funding to buy down that risk. Next slide, please, has some more information. These are just two images of the projects I mentioned first: Lake Morey Dam and Little Hosmer Dam. As I said, they're fairly similar projects, Lake Morey Dam has some property line issues, some historic encroachment issues, and some unauthorized operation issues, as well as some structural issues with the spillway that need to be addressed. Little Hosmer Dam has some concrete issues and actually some under seepage issues that are starting to get a little bit concerning that we need to address, and likely some spillway capacity issues also. Next slide, please. And then back to the 21 A&R owned dams. They're subject to the screening level risk assessment that I was discussing earlier. Again, the objective of the screening level risk assessment is to identify what are called potential failure modes of the dams due to various hydrologic and structural loading conditions, which will allow us to make relative risk estimates for each dam. So again, that will allow us to rank which ones are in most need of money and pose the highest risk to the state, and which ones of these 21 pose the lowest risk to the state. And that will allow us to focus our efforts and money on the highest risk dams and get those addressed first. And these are the 21 listed here. Their color coding, not to add confusion, the color coding is associated with hazard classification. So the red coded ones are high hazard potential dams, and the orange ones in the legend here are significant hazard potential dams. Again, these are the 21 A&R owned dams that are either higher significant hazard, less Waterbury Dam, since Waterbury Dams, as indicated, is already on its own separate path to these other dams.
Is there a committee or a group that gets together to talk about ranking?
Yes, typically in that screening level risk assessment process, there's a consultant engineer that's brought on board, and they will do the technical work to identify the risks. And then quite often, as part of it, there's what's called a risk elicitation, where typically the dam owner, which is us, the regulator, and the consultant, and often others, are invited to sort of elicit and compare the relative risks of the different dams to help in that ranking process.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I am not able to read black printing on a red background. Could someone just read those top ones to me? Just the names of the dams. And the
Yeah,
towns.
I'm happy to do that. So the first
Thanks.
one is Silver Lake Dam, located in Barnard. The second one is East Barry Dam, located in Barrytown. Excuse me. The third one is Riceville Dam, located in Middlesex, and Sweet Pond Dam, located in Guilford. Lake Sadaga Dam in Whitingham. Lake Sadaga West Dike, also located in Whitingham and on the same body of water, and Lowell Lake Dam, which is located in Londonderry.
Okay, I can read below that. So are these in order of how dangerous they are?
These are actually no particular order, other than the red coded ones are currently high hazard potential classification, and the orange are currently significant hazard potential classification. These are part of our periodic inspection program. So this table does include some additional information, including issues that we're aware of with the dams associated that have been identified as part of the periodic inspection. And then this last column in the right, the likely needs, is sort of our, based on the work that's been done so far through the periodic inspection program, sort of what we're aware of are some of the issues associated with the dams, but certainly not all that will be uncovered. Not as much as will be uncovered in the more in-depth risk assessment that will be done on all of these dams.
Okay, so forgive me for being parochial, but Barnard, Silver Lake, what's planned for that dam? What do you have planned to do with that?
So that one in particular is a DEC-owned dam. We are aware of a couple elements with that one. One is that it's what's called hydraulically inadequate, which means that it's unable to pass the regulatory size design storm. And so there's a couple of different ways to attack that. One that we have written here in the likely needs is overtopping protection. Basically what that means is that elements of the dam are armored to allow it to purposefully allow it to overtop and take that flood flow and not receive crippling damage or that would result in a failure. So that's one. That might be a little bit jumping to a conclusion, but that's probably the most likely alternative that could address that element. And then the other is that in the principal spillway at Silver Lake is what's called a riser structure, where the water falls from the lake into this vertical shaft and then kind of is conveyed through the embankment dam through a pipe. And the wooden stop logs in that structure that you could theoretically remove and control water level, and those stop logs are in bad condition and need to be replaced. Which by and large sounds like a simplistic thing to do, but can actually get fairly challenging with water control and environmental requirements. So we need to replace the stop logs in that structure.
And I presume you're in touch with the towns where this is all happening?
Yeah,
town
absolutely.
government
It's going to
road.
take, particularly Silver Lake with the, with the town road over the crest of the dam, there's going to be a lot of local coordination with these projects.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator McCormick is a little gun shy after Irene came through. He's probably rightfully concerned. Took out most of his front yard, I understand.
No, actually, it was almost like a miracle. We had total destruction all around us that literally stopped at my property line. I'm not kidding. We were like blessed. But we were surrounded by destruction and then.
Yep.
So.
Okay, Ben.
Yeah, so this is the last slide in the presentation. Again, the additional 3.5 million that's being requested is to basically act on the results of this risk assessment work for these 21 dams that will allow us to have the money available so we can rapidly move to design and construction and not have a stay or a pause in the project that sort of delays it or makes it difficult to get moving again. So that's the intention.
Okay, committee questions? Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. Eric, are we coming back to you?
I really don't have much to add other than to just reinforce the need for these funds and to just sort of echo what Ben just said about being able to have these monies available so that we can just move ahead with the projects. And there's some consideration to possibly lumping or combining some of the dams that are geographically located near one another or are of a similar type. That would facilitate being able to move these projects sooner. The other thing that we're considering is at least having the money available means we can go out to bid in good faith. We could stage these projects over a period of time, which might result in more favorable bidding prices. Contractors, knowing that they might have more flexibility and when they do the work might hold a price for us, and it might actually turn out to be a lower price in the long run.
Okay. Committee, any further questions, comments?
Senator Benning, if I could just maybe offer a little context
Sure.
for why this is a capital bill item this year. As your committee may recall, the governor's water infrastructure ARPA funded package included money for some of these dam safety improvements last year. We were sort of cautiously optimistic that Treasury would allow ARPA dollars to be invested in dams, but it's since been confirmed for us that this is not an eligible expense. The General Assembly last year, because we didn't have that certainty from US Treasury, did provide $5 million of one-time general fund money to support the work that Eric and Ben have described and allowed us to get underway. But going forward, the implementation is in need of funding, and it is a capital, obviously eligible expense, and that's why it's part of the proposed budget FY23 capital bill budget adjustment. We know that there's all told probably north of $100 million worth of needs in our state-owned dams. So this is a small step in a very important direction. Obviously, the lion's share of that $100 million overall price tag is with the Waterbury Dam, but we do have quite the portfolio as Ben and Eric have described for you today, and just feel that these investments are both timely and really important.
Well, we appreciate you coming by and joining us. As you are well aware, the bill that we normally operate on is still in our House counterparts jurisdiction right now. But should they play with numbers and you're not happy about what they've done, I suspect we'll be seeing you back in our committee to try to make some corrections.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all for joining us. Alex, I'm going to have you take us off of YouTube.